Happy Monday, everyone. We are back. This is Mondays with Micah. It is a new month. It is the month of May. And this month, I want to do something a little bit different. I'm not going to be interviewing widows this month exactly because I want to focus on something that is on our website called Grief Education. And we're going back to where it started. So my trusty friend Holly is here today. We are in the widow group together, but she works at Bronco Federal Credit Union, and when my husband passed suddenly, I had to call out for help. And Holly, in her friend fashion, but also in her professional job, she had a skill set that was able to help me transition and help me unlock some things that I did not do the bills. And I had worked in the bank when I was in college, and so I did understand the process of paying bills, but my husband was the one who did that. And so I had to call Holly to get help on finding out which bills were paper payments, which bills were electronic, which were already on is that bill pay, electronic bill pay, which ones were that way. I had to make sure we knew how many credit cards there were, if there was any debt on the credit cards that had to be done, and some of those things. And Holly, in a quick fashion, was able to say, I have this skill set and I want to help you with this. Just give me a little bit of time and we will sit down and have this discussion. And she actually helped me kind of write out a Excel sheet of what my bills were and when they were due. And let me just tell you that when you aren't prepared for that rainy day and someone says, I know how to help and I'm willing to help. And that was really what happened to me. So this month on the blog, you're going to hear from other people who came to my rescue. And they didn't have to really rescue me. Really, they just had to utilize the skill set that they have in their vocation, and it set me up for success. So this month is really going to be discussing that. But before we get into some of the financial discussion, I just want to go back. Holly posted something recently on her Facebook page. In the process of the month of April, there has been a fair amount of losses, to be honest. And she can explain that because I don't even remember what her Facebook post was. Recently, we had my father-in-law's celebration of life service, and I was telling some of the people there that I feel like a professional griever. And that if I could get paid for that job, it would be nice. But at this present time, I'm not getting paid to come and cheer you up at your funeral. I mentioned this thought to Holly, and she said she had another term for it. What was your term?
I said I was a professional loser.
Okay, so I didn't think that was as good. I didn't think that was as positive of a phrase, that she's a professional loser. But since 2017, should we count how many people that we love that we've lost?
A lot.
I would say probably close to 10. Would you say?
Good estimate.
A good estimate. So that's a large number, y'all. And these weren't just like distant relatives. These were our mothers. These were our husbands. Grandmothers, aunts that were like grandmothers. She lost an aunt. We both lost aunts in how many weeks apart?
Just a couple weeks.
2 weeks apart. Okay. So for some reason, Holly loves me so much, she keeps copying everything I'm doing in life. And I said, look, this isn't a compliment to me any further. I would like us to have our I didn't even know she'd lost her aunt. That's how much is going on around here, guys. We can't even keep up because the pace of life has gotten a little too fast. We lost a lady here at church, Miss Amy Bolton, and I'm hoping to have her husband on to share his story, their love story, all the different things here in the near future. And then all of a sudden after that, my father-in-law passed, and Holly wrote again something beautiful that said that these long-standing people that have passed on in the last month were very intertwined in her entire life, in our entire lives. And she's a little bit more emotional than I am about some of these thoughts, and she's not going to cry today. I'm just giving you a forewarning. But I thought that was such a beautiful way to say these people have intersected births, school, like adolescent years, college years, marriage years, growing children years, and so these lives have stood the test of time, and they become family to us. These people are family, blood or not. And so I said, I don't care what you're doing, we need to get over here. And so we are a little more casual here today, because it's not about us. It's about sharing our stories. And Holly has a lot of wisdom. And I just remember one of the things, and I may have mentioned this on a previous post in a different year, that when Derek passed, and I don't know, we were in the car at some point shortly after, and she started telling me these thoughts that she was having. And this whole wave of peace came over me to say, oh, she knows how to hear from the Father. And she'd been hearing from the Father way before that point, but our depth of friendship did not really tap into, per se, talking about what is the Holy Spirit saying to you, and what is your devotions showing up. And we're fun friends, and we do life to we're adventure buddies and all these kind of things. But then as she became a widow, another facet into this friendship was exposed or unlocked, and I almost started to cry because I was so thankful. So I'm not going to cry now. I was so thankful to know that she was going to be okay, and that she had developed a relationship with the Lord really deeper than I had when my husband had passed. And it was a crash course into discovering how to hear guidance and get guidance in areas that I did not have answers for. And
She never cried before.
Before that point.
Yeah.
Yes, thank
So
you.
this is funny. I'm the crier.
Yes.
She's hardcore.
So
Now she's joined the club.
now I'm in the fields and have a lot of physical problems. But so anyway, all that to say, I wanted to just give a little bit of preface that we are worshiping widows, and people continue to come up to us at different times and say, I can't not weep when both of you are worshiping. Like, I'm crying in the service. Now, we're not crying while we're worshiping, but for whatever reason, our testimony that we're able to still worship in spirit and in truth, it affects people and it impacts people. And that's really God in us to embolden us to be able to stand up on stage and to still declare that God is good, and that even when we're walking through some heavy losses, and they're painful to us too. We're not in denial about these losses, y'all. We are not compartmentalizing these losses. We are feeling these losses deeply. Maybe not in this video, but Holly has cried with me on the phone. I've been in and out of tears. It triggers us to walk through these losses again, because the depth of loss is very real. But I know I'm supposed to continue to communicate that this area of grief is a sacred and really a very beautiful space, vulnerable space. And the conversations that I've gotten to have over the last year, especially of interviewing widows and widowers, has felt like some of the most honorable and rewarding work that I've done in my entire life. And we are just getting started. So without further ado, meet Holly Ledbetter.
Here I am again. What do you want me to talk about in specific?
Yeah, you can share what's on your heart about any of the things that I just mentioned. You have a second. Would you like to second any of those thoughts, or to develop any of what I said any further? Like pick.
Well, I mean, I think with grief, one, it's important to walk through it. Everybody does it differently. Everybody does it in a different time frame, and some are more prepared for grief, I think, than others. For me, grief was oncoming for things. My husband was sick on and off through our entire marriage. So there's a certain preparation that comes for grief, even in sickness, for those that have maybe taken care of somebody that's chronically sick all the time. There's a certain level of grief that comes with that. And Derek did spend a fair amount of time in and out of the hospital. So I did feel somewhat prepared to grieve, not necessarily prepared for the loss, but prepared to grieve, but at the same time find joy on the other side, because his earth suit was giving out. It wasn't great. He didn't feel good. He couldn't do the things he wanted to do. And the Lord took him home where he can be healed, whole, and all of the things. So that just leaves us here to process, and what Micah talked about earlier as far as just the nature of working in a financial institution. You may have a little bit more exposure than some to things, but I handled all the finances. I had all of those things in my wheelhouse, whereas Micah did none of that when Ben passed. So when Derek passed away, I was in a much better situation as far as nothing changed in that aspect.
Right.
I didn't have to hunt for anything. I didn't have to find passwords. I didn't have to set up
New accounts,
because I had payable on death on all my accounts, and I think that's something everyone should have. If you have accounts anywhere at any financial institution, they all call it something maybe a little bit different, payable on death. There's other terms that you can use for it, but all you have to do is go in and say, hey, I'd like to name this person as payable on death. So that way, when your loved one passes away, your family left behind, those that are having to pick those pieces up, don't have to hunt and peck for accounts. They don't have to look for the finances to cover a funeral if there's money set aside in an account, because it automatically goes to the person that's listed as payable on death. So you don't have to do court and all of those things. None of that is my wheelhouse. None of that is my wheelhouse or my specialty, but I do know that that's very helpful. Also very helpful to have a spreadsheet. Set up a spreadsheet, list every account that you have, where it is, what it is, credit card, bank account,
passwords.
Put all your passwords for that stuff, and make sure your spouse or maybe your child that you trust at least have it in a place where they know they can get their hands on it. If anything were to happen to you, whether you are married or whether you're already a widow and your children would be the ones that have to pick that up and take it, it's important to leave them in a position where they're prepared. And they, in the middle of grieving and in the middle of their grief journey, they do not have to wonder, worry, stress. I don't know where this is. I don't know where that is. So it's good to, nobody wants to talk about any of this stuff before people die, but we're all gonna die. So we might as well talk about it now and be prepared for it when the time comes. And you know, maybe Jesus comes back and none of us have to worry about that. That's even better. But if he doesn't and you do pass, then your family is not left in a position where it feels stressful, such as Micah was feeling a little stressful because she didn't know where things were. She didn't know her balances. She didn't know what kind of accounts she had. She didn't know what was in them, how to look for all of that. And when you're in the middle, especially of a sudden loss, that's a lot to maneuver through when you're already trying to process the loss. And especially if you're young, like we were, and you have small children, you're not only trying to process your grief, you're trying to navigate how to process with your children as they grieve as well. So the more you're prepared for that, the better off you'll be in the long run.
And as she's saying, it gives, that little summary there, when you don't know where things are, the amount of time that it takes to look, and what do we say, a needle in a haystack. You're looking sometimes, unfortunately, not all of our husbands are organized, and the way that they pay their bills. I'm not saying I'm the most organized, but these are some of the facets that and then you start uncovering it and you find out information you didn't even know about. I mean, there's there's so many layers to the finances when it comes to these things. And what here at the Widow Walk, I really say this, and I'm going to continue to say this, that my husband set me up for success. That is really the word. And even in that, even though I say that, there were some areas that we did not put in place. And that was one of them. And so there's nothing wrong, obviously. A lot of married couples, their husbands do the finances. But something, or their wife, and especially if they're working in the banking industry, most of the wives are the ones that are handling that. And so in her transition, there was no transition. Things continued moving smoothly. For me, something got put back on my plate, and then I had to figure out what was even on the plate. And so this thing called grief, especially in the beginning, so much can come at you so quickly that is part of this overwhelm that can happen, and anxiety. People, you start dealing with this anxiety. You have to make a lot of decisions where you used to do that as a couple. And now you're having to make decisions in an area that you don't even feel confident to make a decision in. And now you're grieving having to make that decision. And so what I want to encourage you here today with is that it is kind and a loving act to prepare. It's not if, it's when. And I am working, and I don't know when this would be done, to create some type of a document that you can fill your information into. And I believe it's supposed to be called a love letter. That there's this love letter, whether it's an Excel sheet, but there's a fillable form where you can put some of these things, a simplified thing, because it can seem so big that you don't even know where to start. But if we could have a simplified PDF where you can put your information in, then you tell your wife, and then once a year, y'all, you need to update some of that, because there is changes that happen financially. And sometimes, I've heard people say they wrote their will in 1990 and then things changed. And so this is not a once and done, y'all. It really is an ongoing conversation. And what does it do? It creates a level of peace, that you know what pieces that you're going to have to activate when the time comes. You know where those pieces are, and you have been told what they are, so that it's a matter of flipping that switch on, and it's an easy transition. Another thing I want to kind of speak into a little bit here, because Holly is way more versed in this, is because her losses, a lot of them were ongoing illness. She was in and out of the hospital and has seen more hospital protocol. Can you speak into a little bit of patient advocacy?
Right. Well, it's important. Obviously, anybody that's been in a nursing home or anything like that, and you have someone there, a lot of people love their job and they're really good at it, and they love the folks that they're tending to, but some people don't. And so it's important to be a voice for your person, whether it's in the hospital, whether it's in the nursing home. I was with my mother-in-law, and thankfully her niece was a nurse, and she literally created a binder, because every doctor appointment, you see numerous doctors, physical therapists, all of the things, everybody's asking you the same questions. What prescriptions are you on? Just a host. When did you have surgeries? Do you have any metal in your body? Have you ever had this before? Do you have high blood pressure? Things that, your loved one may experience, or they may take medicine for, but you're like, I don't know what their medicine is. Mm-hmm. So also important to have all of that stuff written down. I'm really thankful that Deborah's niece was able to just put it all together. She knew exactly what she was doing, and that binder went to every doctor's appointment. And when they were like, well, what about this? Flip, flip, flip. She had it like color coded. And maybe not everybody is able to do that, but even printing off the notes on your My Chart,
your lab,
just so that way she could compare things and say, wait, but this is off compared to what it was before, because unfortunately things do get missed in the medical system, no matter how great your providers are. And even in the nursing home, just I was in that process with my aunt, and we had to work through that, and the Medicaid and the Medicare and all of the portions. You're never going to know it all, but never be afraid to reach out and ask people who have done that before, maybe what their process was like or what it looked like.
And where could you find information like that? Where do you go?
So Southampton Social Services is a good, they have a lot of good resources. They're actually the ones that pointed me to the Medicaid process, and it was simple. It was over the phone. It was like a 30-minute call to be able to get her set up and get what she needed so she could have the care that she needed in the end. And, you know, we are thankful that we were able to get that. But, yeah, advocacy is important. You know, somebody may not be completely in their right mind in their end stages. And, you know, even with my mother-in-law and what she went through, it's just important to make sure you're asking the questions and have the information that you need, but also talking to your parents prior to them becoming sick. Mm-hmm. So you make sure you know where things are, talking about burial plots, talking about even paying a funeral home in advance. These are all things that you can do that are helpful in the end. And again, as far as I'm concerned, yes, death is sad for all of us that are left here to grieve the ones that we lose. Mm-hmm. But if they know Jesus, they're in a better place. So let's have the conversation with those that we love ahead of time and do some preparation. Yep. So during the grieving, you have the space to grieve without the constant worry of, what do I do next?
And with her mother-in-law, you know, she had some different illnesses over the last 5 years of her life. But it was still sudden because ultimately they had gone on a trip, and then there was some symptoms that started to manifest on that trip, and things got pretty serious from that point on when they got home from that trip. And in 4 months, her mother-in-law was gone, and that was a full-time job. In the midst of her working a full-time job, she is now having to navigate an illness that she had not walked with before, and still trying to uncover what it was and what type of treatment, or if anything, was going to work. And
also why it's important to have a team.
Thank you.
You need more than you, so lean on those that are around you. Just like I said with Deborah's niece, without her, we would have I couldn't have done it all. There's no way I could have done all the things that she did, plus the little pieces that I did on certain sides of it. But you need a team to navigate. Lean on people that have the knowledge, just like she had the nursing background and the knowledge to be able to navigate that a whole lot better than I did. So lean on your people that you trust and that will help you.
And again, this is a young 40-year-old, not only having to navigate walking with her father when her mother passed, even though a majority of that I think your dad handled per se, but you were still very involved, and witnessing this in 2017, and then in 2021, all of a sudden, she's experiencing this in another form with her husband, and that was a 3-week process really, due to COVID. And so, not even though there was long-standing things going on, the process towards death, if we want to call it, was not that long within her storyline. And even her aunt had said to her, "This is my last Christmas here." You know, so she was kind of giving her a little forewarning. I'm ready to go, and some things started to happen as well. But to know that someone in their 40s not only was navigating someone that was driving, her mother-in-law driving, doing things to a point that she's in a hospital, and then did she even move into East Pavilion?
No, she
never made it there. But she was in the process of trying to get that figured out, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So, okay, you are more capable than you believe you are. This is what I'm trying to say here. You could say, how the heck how could you do that? Well, one, we're not doing it in our own strength. She's calling on the Lord minute by minute, moment by moment in those days. And she was stressed because it was a lot. Still juggling our kids, homework, bath times, all these things that are going on. And even though we do have a pretty good support team, it's still, when you add something else to the plate of single parenting, it kind of starts tipping that plate over. And so this is real, okay, y'all? This is real that can go on, but we can't fear the future. And I do believe that the Lord gives guidance, even thoughts that come to you a little bit sharper in those moments, people to call, people to ask. It just starts, it starts happening. But if you're someone who's feeling like it's not coming to you like that, then we want to know, because we're in the process of building a directory where we have these kind of phone numbers and resources, so that if you do get stuck, you can check our website out, and we're going to have these helpful lists of resources that then you're not hunting, trying to go on Google to figure out what words do I even need to put in, which area do I even need to look at. Why am I continuing to have these conversations? Because it's helping me and others share some tips, but also help us to start to funnel some information so that we have more helpful directories, which right now we do not have on the website. So this conversation is helping me think about putting even more phone numbers and some contacts locally here, so that you know who to call if and when these situations arise. All right, well, I am not going to continue unless there's some other thoughts that you have on this, but we just want you to know that the financial part of walking through grief, the estate, and all of those kind of things, it is a can be a daunting part of it. And so I want to end with this part that, okay, so Holly had to help walk through with her niece, walking with her aunt, her mother-in-law. But then after she passed, because Derek had passed before, Holly really had to step in as the daughter-in-law and kind of handle the estate. And there were other things that had to happen, because Deborah was helping family members with some things as well. And so it wasn't done at death, y'all. It's not done at death. There is a lot of steps that has to happen to settle the estate, we call it. And so we're going to be continuing these conversations in the coming weeks. I'm hoping to get an attorney on here, potentially a financial advisor on here, to start unraveling another layer of walking out life after death stories, and how do you navigate those things. And I really believe Holly has not, in the midst of all that, there's not been a lot of family turmoil.
No.
Can you speak into that at all?
That's certainly not every case, I'm sure, but I am very thankful that on both sides of the house of my families, my biological family and then my husband's family, everybody does their part. Everybody jumps in. Everybody is helpful. Nobody has been out to, well, I deserve this or I deserve that. I just think, be real prayerful when you go into loss. Is it really about what you end up with, a dollar amount, or who's going to get the china, or is it really worth that? Mm-hmm. We're not taking any of this with us.
Right.
Yes, I understand there's different circumstances and scenarios that certainly
memories,
family dynamics and things like that can play a part, and people that have a lot more siblings. Mm-hmm. So I have a sister, and we see eye to eye on things, and then my husband was an only child, so we didn't have any of those dynamics. And Deborah's sisters and brother, they're wonderful, and they all helped. Everybody mm-hmm. jumped in and helped and did their part. So it wasn't just Holly doing all of it, but not everybody has that. But I would just make sure you lean on like a trusted advisor or something like that, but don't lose your family over an estate. I don't think that's worth it for sure. So, you know, be prayerful as you are navigating death and what comes after that.
And I know these conversations are not easy to be had. And I'm trying to grow in the language to be able to help present these things on the table without it seeming so invasive, maybe is the term. But like anything, if you're not familiar with it, it feels bigger than it is. And even her talking about the Medicare thing, if just the idea of having to figure that out feels too big. And all she said was, it was one phone number and one 30-minute phone call. Do you see how just hearing that makes it feel less daunting? Like, I can do that. Okay, so how many other things do we think is all these steps and we're gonna have to take this bifold and like 10 years of taxes or something? And that's not what the case is. But our mind plays tricks on us and tells us that you aren't capable of this, don't even make the phone call, and just, you know, you got stuck with the hand that was dealt to you and you just gotta suffer and buck up. I don't believe that. I do not believe that. And we get the opportunity as being young widows to learn some lessons that may not happen for 30 years for a lot of people. And so are being educated at an earlier age, and some have said to us, you're wise beyond your years. Well, that's because we had to experience things that usually don't happen until latter years of life. And so that is a gift, to be honest, because we're learning things now so that we can really share it with you, and hopefully you're not going to have to go through some of the rigmarole that I did. And if I hear one testimony of somebody saying that helped me know what to do next, and it took the stress and pulled it way down, then I've accomplished my goal here on this Widow Walk, to be able to level the stress down and help you believe that you can do this and that there's a team. And if you don't have that team, you contact us here at the Widow Walk. We want to help guide and direct you to some people that can become a part of your team. Not all of this is even financially a financial investment. I just read something on Facebook recently that the legal aid is going to be doing some things with wills and other, not, you know, pro bono, right? You don't have to always pay. There's resources around this community that you can apply for that you don't have to pay thousands of dollars for. And sometimes it's just a matter of you did not know they existed. And so we want to help learn. We're learning so that we can help share with you the resources that are at your fingertips and aren't going to cost you anything. And if you need any other help, go on over to Bronco Federal Credit Union. Their staff there, Holly hires. You know, so she's part of the staffing team, and if they're nice, it's because she hired them all. So they're there to serve, and really they handle from infancy all the way up. I mean, it's one of the organizations that we have that really covers every life.
Sure.
The ages of life. You know, there's kids savings. I mean, it walks with you throughout your whole life in this financial institution. That's the beauty of banking, is that it's a constant. So if you would like to know more about these things, or if you would like Holly to come back on the show for more helpful tips, then you have to comment below. Please share this episode. Let them know they need to be following us here at the Widow Walk. You can register on the main page of thewidowwalk.org to get our emails. Then every Monday you'll get an email with these helpful videos. Stay tuned for next time. Bye.
Ta-da.